College League of Legends. 235 schools, coming from coast to coast and everywhere in between. Now, just 16 remain, carrying the region's fiercest rivalries in their hearts.
Since then, I've hated that school.
And legends in their soul.
I know what I'm capable of, I know what my team is, and I know that we're going to perform when it matters, and when a lot of these other, top dogs are going to choke.
Phenomenal performance from the University of California. Back-to-back titles!
Now, all of their history, triumphs and adversity, teamwork and struggles, dedication and sacrifices, every step is leading to one final test.
Months ago, hundreds of Collegiate League of Legends programs. Just a few months ago, hundreds of Collegiate League of Legends programs began their quest at nationwide glory. Countless hours dedicated by players and coaching staff alike, scrimming, VOD reviewing, and more, all to simply earn a spot in the ultimate tournament to crown a League of Legends Collegiate North American champion, to pass one final test. Welcome one, welcome all to Salty Runback's coverage of the 2024 CLOL Championship Round of 16 and on, with our first matchup of the weekend featuring the number 6 seed Northwood Timberwolves versus the number 11 seeded Western Mustangs. A matchup, Quacks, many are calling the most even keel of the weekend.
For sure. A lot of people have predicted this matchup to go to 5 games, at least in terms of all the other ones that we have going on throughout the weekend in terms of the round of 16. And I can see why, right? Both of these squads are incredibly stacked. They both have a lot to offer, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they put on the Rift here today, Slayer.
Yeah, Quack, super excited to be alongside you with this one. Let's take a look at that bracket as a whole here. Bottom right, where we have our Northwood, and Western University of Ontario taking on. But there's a lot of fun matchups that all are going to be covered either here on Running the Rift or Salty Runback as the weekend goes on.
For sure. And this all wouldn't be possible, right? If we didn't mention the sponsorships that we have here today, right? We have Gen G sponsoring this tournament along with Ole Miss. And thank you to everyone who was a part of this broadcast and who donated to the GoFundMe to make this coverage possible. So big shout outs to all of them. Big shout out to Gen G. Big shout out to Ole Miss. Thank you all for doing what you did. Thank you all for donating and letting us cover the round of 16 and beyond. So it is going to be a banger. I'm glad we get to cover it, you and I, Slayer, and I am personally incredibly excited.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if excited even captures it totally, to be honest with you, Quacks. But let's look today at the schedule that I alluded to, just so everybody can get a holistic view on exactly where to go to watch all these games. Obviously, we're today here on Saturday, so on Salty Runback, you've got 2 slated fun matchups. Maryville versus UCI will immediately be following our gauntlet of a start. And then if you want some extra coverage, make sure to go over to Running the Rift, where they are running the Fisher College versus CU Boulder matchup later today. But, I know you already gave a shout out to some of those sponsors, Quacks. I want to make sure we double down on our thank you. A lot of the awesomeness that came together here. The GoFundMe, like you mentioned, please, if you feel like contributing to the overall broadcast, everything, all the, the Salty Runback, Grapes, and Hawk, and everybody involved had put together. And then you mentioned it, Quacks, Gen G, big shout out to them and Ole Miss stepping up here to make sure that we have such awesome coverage ahead of the day and the weekend, and even more for all of you guys at home. But let's take an overview at today's matchup here. Got Western versus Northwood. Quacks, break it down, just layman's terms at the start, what we're really looking for in this one.
You said it while we were preparing for this, Slayer. We have basically a big old guard versus some new talent, right? And I think it is worth noting that both of these teams, both of these organizations have been, very successful in the college league program as a whole. You obviously have older players on teams like Northwood. They have ISO, they have RBM, they have Clyde, who's been around for like a decade. And you have some of these newer players joined in them in, carry positions like mid and AD carry, right? Recently, it was Northwood that managed to pick up Enthralled. And so they're really hoping that Enthralled is going to be the missing piece that this team has, been going for to try and take that extra step in the CLOL bracket here. And on the other side, you got Western Mustangs, right? You have a decent amount of new players. You have Mira, who was just picked up by the Mustangs as well. You have Krakodon, who's made a name for himself in OQs and, other mediums of Tier 3 League of Legends. And then you have, some older players like Lynx and Loyal. Lynx has been a hot topic for a really long time with his success in the promotion tournament, with his success in both open qualifiers on Blue Otter and Aporia. And now he's back on his CLOL team. He's back home here with Loyal that he has been a teammate with for years now. And so it's going to be really exciting to see this sort of old guard bot lane with these newer talents. And on the reciprocating end, you kind of have a newer AD carry and Enthralled with some older names in the top side.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. And then we look at it, obviously, both these two teams coming very close to conference glory here. So we will now, but I know, Quacks, that you do have a bit of a bone to pick with these two teams for pure geographical reasons.
Yeah, so Northwood is, as you'll notice, not very north of Western University. It's like barely above Western University, so not very north in regards to the fact that they are called Northwood. And then you have Western University, who are, not only are they a part of the East Conference, but they're also east of Northwood. So I have, like you said, Slayer, a little bit of a bone to pick with the misnaming of, I feel, both of these colleges. And it definitely has irked me since we've had to prepare to cast both of them. But it's jokes. And I am, again, just straight up looking forward to seeing if these two college programs are going to go north in this round of 16.
Yeah, so, just poking a little bit of fun, waking up all those PST gamers. But let's take a look, get to the official starting lineups. We'll begin with Northwood University. You mentioned a lot of these big-time names here. In case all you were curious what RBM stands for, there you go, really big meme. But definitely the two lanes that I'm very curious to watch. You already talked about Enthralled, but I think Reppy is a mid laner that has really impressed a lot of people over these last couple. I would say so far in 2024, he had some really impressive performances in the NACL qualifiers. I remember specifically watching him quite literally backdoor a win on Ari, and then obviously you, Quacks, know a lot about Reppy and how far he's come from a certain one-trick champion that was his bread and butter once he started in competitive.
I mean, Reppy has been called the Katarina one trick for years now, right? He has been called this since before he even joined Northwood. He's been called an OTP Katarina that has managed to be challenger for quite a long time now. And he has been working really hard to beat those sort of allegations. There are a lot of one trick mid laners just in CLOL in general who are trying to beat those one trick accusations that they have been facing. You have players like Samikin, right? People have called him a Zoe one trick. He's drawing bans from that champion, and he's still managing to, pull out other characters. The Reppy is kind of the same thing. Hasn't really been playing Katarina in solo queue. Has literally never played Katarina in a competitive match, as far as I'm aware. And they still call him a Cat OTP. So I'm looking at him in this series to continue proving people wrong, to continue showing himself as a complete mid laner instead of just that OTP that everyone knows him as.
Certainly has done it so far this season at multiple points and across, like we talked about, other avenues of big-time play. But let's take a look at our Eastern team in the matchup, Western Ontario League of Legends here. Big-time names. I believe we accidentally have the that looks like the Marival.
That's Marival.
That's definitely not West. That is definitely not Western. So I'll run everybody through it really quick here. Top lane is going to be Dr. Calculus. you talked about, Quacks, was that mid lane that they brought in, and then the bottom lane is certainly one that is very fun to talk about because we've got Lynx in the bottom lane. Everybody that's around Tier 2 and NACL qualifiers and such know Lynx or Blue Otter and other things. And then Loyal, the 4-year captain of this Western Mustangs roster.
And a little bit more on Loyal. This guy has been he is kind of stuck to his name. He has been with Northwood and only Northwood for the past few years now, and he has done what he needs to do, right? This man has been a coach for Northwood. He has been a mid laner. He has been an AD carry, and now he's a support. So he has flexed into a lot of different roles. And this very much could be his last dance here in CLOL. In fact, it probably is going to be his last dance here in CLOL. So I'm really excited to see what him and Lynx can do as a pairing because they have both been on this squad for a long time. And I believe this is the first semester, this is the first split, whatever you want to call it, where they're actually together in the bot lane.
Yeah, first semester as well for Western, where they are finally their league team associated with their club at their university. So that is also very cool to see here. But, speaking on stuff like conferences, the past, I do want to take a look at where these two teams have looked the last couple of years when you talk about CLOL, when you talk about conferences. So let's take a look for both of these squads here. You take a look 2022 through 2024 here. You got Northwood, obviously. You talked about it a bit when we were gearing up, that their League of Legends team has been ramping up as support from their university. They've got some really good finishes in 2023. But the one thing that always sticks out to me with Northwood, you talk about the North Conference Quacks, how competitive it is with Maryville, who we'll see later, SLU, who we've already talked about a bit. I'm sure we'll see a lot later down the line in this graphic. They've been playing third place them. 2 years in a row now, they finished third place in that North Conference behind the two allotted teams that I mentioned. But none of that really matters if they can come out and perform here in the CLOL tournament. And then on the other side, Western, we've already talked about a bit, Quacks, but looking at their last 3 years, what a story this squad has been for just Canada in general, Canadian League of Legends.
This year, they lost in the East Championship, but they still managed to make it to the championship, right? And then they got fourth in the East Conference. They lost in the round of 32, so a bit of a slump in 2023, and then they won the East Conference and then lost to UST in the top 8 CLOL championship. So a bit of a upwards, downwards, upwards trajectory here for Western, whereas I feel like Northwood have kind of been just going a little bit up and up and up as the years have gone by, and it just feels like they have gotten, better and stronger and taken League of Legends esports more seriously in their programs as the years have passed. So it'll be interesting to see with the addition of Enthralled to their squad. It'll be interesting to see with the addition of Enthralled just how much of an improvement they can make over a big heavy hitter like Western.
Big heavy hitters. That's a word that I usually hear with top lane champions as well, Quacks. And I really want to focus in on our top lane matchup. ISO versus Calculus. This graphic serves a purpose. These are the big-time champion picks for both these top laners, and they are very different pools. And I want to throw a couple statistics to everybody at home to make sure they know it. ISO in collegiate conference games so far this season has played top lane champions. He loves especially the Urgot, like you're seeing on the screen. He's played a lot of Udyr games. He's got 4 of those. Loves to pull out that pocket pick, Maokai pick as well. But on the other side, you've got Calculus, Dr. Calculus himself, and you can see 3 different champions. The only champion they really share here is they both have a lot of Cassante games. It was 8 Cassante games here for Calculus in collegiate games. His Aatrox, he showed that one out on running the Rift. He's played that about 6 times, and the most picked champion is that Renekton. But the important thing to mention here with Calculus here as well is that he has played 5 less unique champions compared to ISO. So it's just so interesting, and it will be really interesting once we get to things like Draft Quacks to see how different these two teams want to even plan top lane with the pools ISO and Calculus bring to the table.
But before we get into the draft, we are going to hop into predictions. So let's see what we have to say about who we think is going to win this series. Talent predictions. I personally think Western are going to be able to pull it out, but it seems like I'm in the minority as
you are.
Slayer. Yeah, Slayer. It seems like you are rooting for Northwood here.
Yeah, I'm really just playing towards the level of competition that I think Northwood have been facing all season long. I think playing in a conference with, like we talked about, Maryville and SLU, just really sets you up for a ton of success later down the line. And I get, you can criticize me. I know a lot of people say that Northwood might be a little overrated. Can Enthralled, be the big-time player like they brought him in? I think Enthralled can be that guy. I think he will be that guy today. And I've been proven wrong a lot, Quack. So we'll see. We'll see if I am proven wrong once more. And it looks like, if I'm hearing correctly, that we are potentially ready for draft here.
Yep. We have hopped into draft here for game number 1 of the round of 16 between the Western Mustangs and Northwood University here. So I'm predicting quite a bit of bot lane bans in at least the first few phases of the game, some big priority picks. Maybe things like the Ahri would be taken away. I feel like maybe that could be, if you want to hit the solo lanes early, you could ban that away. The Aurelian Soul, we've seen those champions really tear up the meta in recent patches, just how strong Malignance is in regards to Ahri. Or you could go for something like flex picks, right? The Zac is an option for sure, and I think that's probably what Western are going to go for as they lock that one in.
Yeah, blue side here for Northwood. They had that side selection, I believe, so seen a lot of blue. I feel like the blue side has been a lot more powerful in a lot of the recent games that I've been able to commentate over. So we'll see exactly, like you talked about, where they want to go, especially with that coveted B1 pick. There's a lot of interesting data on when it comes to Enthralled, what champions he likes to play most. I will say, so far this collegiate season, he has played a ton of Varus games, which is about standard for for any AD carry player on the current patches. So doesn't scream out too much. But what we are seeing scream out, at least from Western Mustangs, is a lot of bans being thrown RBM's way.
For sure. The top side is definitely being targeted by the Western Mustangs here. And I would imagine that probably we'll see an Urgot ban come out here at some point. If it isn't picked, Izo namely got a pentakill on that last week, right, when they were playing against Converse. So he's certainly shown that he is a menace on the Urgot. So I would imagine that we're going to see Northwood try and pay some respects to that pick because it is really good on the current patch. It is really good at dealing with a lot of those engage heavy comps that we know a lot of these teams like to play. But in the meantime, we have the Maokai and the Zeri banned away. So these flex picks, these supports and AD carries taken away, making sure that they can just pinch away Lynx and Loyal's champ pool just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I do think, going back to that Urgot point, I think that's got to be a pretty big ban from Northwood. I'm fine not committing it this early on because it's a top lane pick, but not only has it been such a strong pick like you mentioned for Izo here, if you're Western, sorry, banning this away, but it is also just not a champion that Dr. Calculus plays. So you can't really push him to pick that one, as we are rounding out the bans here as well in the second phase. Ton of, it seems to be a mid lane pressure coming across, and then the classic Skarner rework. I'm still yet to cast a Skarner game here, Quacks.
I've got to cast a few, and I can definitely tell you, Slayer, that you aren't missing much. It's as broken as you've seen it be in solo queue. It definitely is the champion right now. And so with that taken away, I feel like the need for an Urgot definitely decreases, because one of the appeals of Urgot is how good he is at dealing with the pesky Scorpion up in the top lane. So with that taken away, I feel like the need to pick Urgot definitely isn't there as much as it would be if that wasn't banned. But yeah, Izo going to lock in that Jinx, and it looks like Western are going to throw down the Scion along with the Callista, or no, not the Scion, the Aurelian Soul, followed by the Callista. So we are going to be giving Lynx a very aggressive early game champion here. And I wonder if this is going to be paired up with maybe something like the Renata. I feel like Callista has a lot of things it can pair up with. Renata, Nautilus come to mind. So I'll be interested to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's funny because when you talk about Lynx, and a lot of the bottom lane pairings that I always remember him about are Rovex. And Lynx and Rovex they play a lot of time, and Rovex is a very big Pyke enjoyer. So whenever I see Callista on Lynx, I do see a lot of the time the Pyke come across. But no, they'll go for a bit more safety from Loyal. Looks like they've locked in the Alistar besides there. Still, somewhat of an engaged threat is really down to Clown when it comes to level 2 and beyond that bottom lane. But like you mentioned, very aggressive picks. On the other side for Northwood, though, Timberwolves are leaning pretty heavy into the scaling department in both the damage and tankiness aspect.
I feel really sad that Northwood actually locked in that Yone, though, because I feel like Silas would go super hard here for Northwood. You have so many good ultimates to steal, but Yone has been locked. In the meantime, though, I'm imagining we're probably going to see a support and jungle here. Yeah, so that is going to be the Nautilus locked in with the Jinx, followed by the Karthus. So
Ooh.
I am really curious to see now what Western is going to do to counter the Karthus jungle pick. Maybe something a little bit aggressive. Jarvan comes to mind. Xin Zhao also an option.
Yeah, Xin Zhao looks to be the lock-in. You got to pick something that's going to get in Karthus' face early and often. You cannot allow this champion to just farm up and become that late-game scaling threat. It's partly why Karthus, in a lot of aspects, I see a lot of discourse around the fact that Karthus might be the S+ tier jungler right now, but that, you got to remember when it comes to solo queue versus competitive, the fact that you have so much more communication makes it pretty hard to play Karthus. That's why you don't normally see Karthus in these scenarios, but we'll see exactly how it plays out, Quacks, because I have learned that these two teams are ready to start our bout on Summoner's Rift. Here we go. 5, Northwood Timberwolves, Western Mustangs. Somebody is grabbing a coveted top 8 spot, and we start with a classic NA Ram, seeing Northwood run right down mid with that Nautilus Scion level 1.
Clyde trying to potentially fish for anyone, and it looks like he sees Krakodon on vision. I wonder if he's going to flash for this. Don't know if he has Hex Flash, so yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to burn it, but ward down from Krakodon. Now the question is, are Northwood going to stay around here and try and mess with this Xin Zhao just a little bit? Because cutting the map is definitely not something you often see from a champion like Karthus. Like you mentioned, Slayer, you usually just want to be the one to full clear and then continue doing that until you feel comfortable scaling up and your ultimate does 5 million damage.
Yeah, 5 million damage. I think that's a understatement to what a Fed Karthus' ult damage will certainly
like 5 million and 1.
Okay, all right. I'm glad we landed on a solid, not hyperbolic number whatsoever. Did see though in the background there, I love that from Lynx. Gonna keep harping on it, veteran move after veteran move. Gets that ward down on the opposite red buff, so you will be able to track RBM in that aspect to see where his clear going, because like we talked about, gotta watch Krakodon, needs to find an avenue to shut down this Karthus. But another aspect of the newer current game of League of Legends here, we've seen it in MSI, I've seen it in ACL, got a good old-fashioned lane swap going.
And now this makes the lane, this sort of makes the split in jungle make so much more sense, because really Big Meme now has complete access to this side of the map, and it makes it impossible for Dr. Calculus to even walk up, right? You can see both Izo and really Big Meme are over there, so if Dr. Calculus, if he stays in that lane, he very much will just get straight up dove. So we are going to see the TP coming out from Izo. So just wanted to cover really Big Meme, allow him to, you know, take those first 3 camps and potentially threaten the dive onto Calculus. And now he's returned right back to lane.
Here they go. Ignite dropped. Loyal trying to hold the aggro. Is there enough damage on the red from Lynx? Oh! Yes, there will be in first blood. Grabbed in lane style fashion for this early game Callista.
And TP was burned by Izo, which means now Lynx can just fully shove this wave and deny so much experience from the Scion in the early game. And it just continues to put Lynx ahead. This is exactly what you want to see for a Callista. First to blood before 3 minutes. This is the snowballing champion. This is the premier snowballing champion in the 80 carry position. So nice to see from Western.
Look at this. Level 1 Dr. Calculus doesn't have farm to his name, but he's still going to be trying to punish Izo. I love the aggressiveness here. But at a certain point, Dr. Calculus has got to get back top lane to at least get some farm, get some gold, get some XP, but he's still committed. Oh my god, Quacks. They're going to re-dive poor Izo here. Gets to level 3, but Krakodon is waiting for the next wave to crash.
But he's actually not going to catch it, which means that these minions are going to come in. Lynx and Dr. Calculus are going to have to clear this. But it doesn't look like any help is coming for Izo. He does have Flash, but oh, poor Izo, man. He's the grandfather of Maokai. Stop treating the elderly like this.
All right, well, he's doing a good job. Dr. Calculus pulls turn aggro early. He's going to hold on to it. Krakodon, though, takes a big chunk. Good Flash will get him away. Lynx having to burn his as well. Costs a lot more, but round 2 of the dive on Izo works out at the end of the day.
We've been talking a lot about the bot side, but meanwhile, Enthralled and Clyde have silently taken 2 plates. Dr. Calculus, still level 1. I don't know if you want to even go to the lane at that point, my friend. I think you're probably going to need your Xin Zhao to help you. because it's very possible we will see what has been happening on the bot side happen in the top side to Dr. Calculus if he shows his face.
Yeah, you can see RBM waiting on the wings
Oh boy.
here. He is going to find Krakodon and Dr. Calculus, but that's a level 1 Kasante flash away from the Karthus. RBM, don't believe he got the big Krug there. Krakodon able to steal that one away, but this topside lean for Northwood starting to bear its claws, and that Dredgeline will get it. This is a level 1 Dr. Calculus. Oh, does not have flash, able to dash back towards turret. Krakodon's not able to turn down, but they've got RBM. Loyal flashes in to grab it. The passive form, can it find the kill to Krakodon? No, he's able to run away until Clyde finds the auto. And these lane swap meta diabolical dives continue now on the top side for Northwood.
And Dr. Calculus finally gets to say hello to his turret the first time this game. And yeah, it's potentially a redive here, but Enthrall did burn his ghost. Clyde still has flash, but they're probably just going to call it here. I don't want to go for anything too aggressive because they have no idea where Krakodon could be at this point in the game in regards to the map. So they don't want to keep testing that because they did just get punished for it.
Now we sit at maybe a bit of a lull finally with these early level dives and such. Top laner is going to be able to get farm, catch up. We do have these neutral objectives spawning in. Despite the fact that Krakodon is near Scuttle Crab, he's confident he can take this dragon on his own level 3, but he's got to be careful with where these bottom lanes are coming across. Northwood on the reset.
Yeah, Reppy does have Cryo, but also has not backed yet, so he's just going to take that reset. So no threat of a Yone coming down here to potentially mess with this dragon take. This is a really big objective for Western to have early, though, right? Because we're talking about the scaling that Northwood have drafted. They have the Jinx, they have the Yone, they have the Karthus. So being able to deny that first dragon away from them makes them wait a little bit longer for some of those spikes in the objective department. And that's just really good recognition here from Krakodon to take that as early as possible.
We've been talking about it. Krakodon needs to have a lot of early pressure, has a bit more KP than RBM, but you also got to think that CS discrepancy very big for RBM, and that is ultimately the goal for Karthus here. So still got some early game to play. Obviously the mid game could become a bit more tricky for this Karthus, but that ultimate is online, and I feel like RBM's done a pretty good job farming up as he should be on this Karthus for the early game.
And he's just going to go to the grubs. The bot lane of Northwood have now roamed on up, so no potential really for Western to fight this at this point. So that's going to be a really big objective to take because we have seen so many turret plates drop just 7 minutes into the game. So getting that extra little touch of the void this early on will definitely allow the gold to funnel into these carries like Enthralled and Reppy much easier.
Yeah, but we're getting some more jungle hijinks. Izo not too tanky for a silence just yet. There's the
Lynx
Crystal thrown out here. They're going in with Loyal. Gets the 3-man headbutt, but no damage to follow up so far here. Gets the pulverized back. Izo gets thrown into the team, and there's the first kill, but a big Fate Seal comes across Reppy, diving onto the back line. Loyal's the first one pinned. Reppy is eviscerating the back line as the hook lands in through for Clyde once more. Lynx trying to hop around, but runs right into RBM. Here comes the reset for Enthralled. Shutdowns galore. Only the Asol can get right over the wall. Dr. Calculus has to run for the hills, and Northwood come out on top of the first big game skirmish.
And Northwood use those kills to take complete control of the top side here. There's a wave pushing in. This is where the grubs are going to come in extra handy because they'll be able to get some plates under their belt, deny the CS from all the members of Western, and just overall multiple kills coming over to the carries of Northwood puts them now at a solid gold lead.
Solid gold lead indeed. You talked about with the grubs as well. Could try and start to heighten this. Grab those plates. You still got 6 whole minutes to try and knock some of these down and get some more gold income.
For sure. And you can see Izo trying to proc the rune, trying to get some extra little damage on the turret, but Dr. Calculus going to deny that. Meanwhile, the junglers are going to spot each other out. They were trying to look for a dive on Enthralled, but now reinforcements has arrived for the Jinx, so that's no longer going to be possible. And it's just Lynx and Loyal, you know, they tried to engage the last fight. They're trying to look for more ways to snowball this Callista, but it just seems like Northwood's team fighting has prevailed in these last couple of fights.
Yeah, and Enthralled certainly very happy about his spot on the Jinx. This is the weakest part of the game for this champion. And it really feels like for Northwood, if they can just survive through the next, couple of minutes and further with the comp that they have and the fact they're holding a gold lead, that does feel like a big success, even if you are going to have to worry about Mira's A-Soul as the game goes on. I mean, you talked about it already, right? Jinx, Yone, Karthus, surviving the early game unscathed virtually is massive for any team.
And it puts a lot more pressure on Western to react and respond, right? Which is why they engaged that last fight, and they're trying to go aggressive here in the top lane. Link's trying to poke out Enthrall, but you have to be careful. Oh, but they're just going right back in.
Headbutt Pulverize goes pop for Enthrall. He's just going to run out of there. Doesn't like his odds. Lynx gets a big slow, trying to drop a bit of extra damage down. It certainly seems like, despite the fact the early death came across for Lynx and Loyal are ever as confident in this 2v2.
For sure, and it's the confidence is going to bolster the moment Loyal manages to hit level 6. It's going to make those dives so much easier to execute because of the extra armor that this Alistar is going to get. So Enthralled and Clyde have to be careful. They have to be aware of the 2v2 prowess of this comp because, like you said earlier, Slayer, this kind of is Jinx's weakest point in the game. If they can't get resets, then Kalista is just going to hit them over the head with multiple Rens, multiple spears. So it's definitely not their time to go for a 2v2, but maybe a 2v3 as the TP's coming in.
Yeah, Timberwolves looking to fight here. Great Kalista ult from Lynx. Tries to flash the wall with Loyal, but Loyal gets left behind. Has flashed up if he wants it, but won't be flashing because look who's behind, already on top of Lynx. It's RBM looking to land the Qs, drop the damage down. Lynx trying to dip, duck, dive, and dodge, but sees a gray screen. What a wrap from Northwood.
And again, the control over top side is allowing Northwood to just pinch this Kalista at all times in the game. Dr. Calculus and Kraken they're trying to get in, but they have no avenues here. They have no vision. They have no idea where Northwood could be hiding. And you can see Iso trying to get a little bit of a cheeky Q there just because he can. And because of that pressure, they're going to be able to go for the second spawn of Grubs and pick all 6 of them up. So a lot of pressure going to be generated from these now.
A lot of pings, though, going to the other side of the map here. Krakadon gonna lead the charge. Link's already getting down there. No real vision for Northwood on the bot side. So the one thing you do get back is the fact that you will, unless something goes awry here, get to that 2 Drake early for Western. And we'll see exactly what soul they'll be in line to grab in a game where they'll definitely need it, given the early game so far.
For sure. Western need this sort of contingency for a late game that they can try to match Northwood's scaling with, and it starts with the Dragons, right? You can see everyone is rotating around this objective. They're going to take it uncontested, and it's just going to be a question of, is it going to be enough? Which is going to be the Chemtech, by the way. Is that going to be enough to deny and match the scaling of Northwood? As we got to fight here.
I don't think Krakadon and Loyal want this battle. They go in for Clyde, but he's very tanky. The turn is coming out. Fate Seal going to dive right on top of Lynx. Reppy on top of the Kalista, but Enthrall gets the reset in the background. Gets excited, trying to run forward, landing the rockets. Here comes the Requiem over top from RBM. Is there enough damage? Enthrall flashing forward. Did he bite off more than he could chew? Doesn't seem like it. First kill going to ring out. Here's Krakadon falls. Lynx will find a trade with Mira. But once again, just a small scrap found for Western as we got the top laners brawling it out. Dr. Calculus has already gone all out, dropping the ultimate for some extra damage, pops the ghost. Iso, though, doing a really good job diving away, just trying to dodge all the knockbacks, and the Scion is just too tanky for Dr. Calculus's kit.
I want to quote the Expeke thing where he talks about someone being too tanky, but unfortunately I'm not able to on broadcast, I fear. As Iso didn't even have to burn the flash trying to run away from Dr. Calculus, so good hold there from him. Dr. Calculus, no ultimate available now for potentially this Herald fight if both teams are going to rush over there. And Iso still has his ultimate up, so a big advantage here for Northwood in the top side because of that exchange.
Dr. Calculus will have teleport advantage for, well, maybe not too much longer here, but as the dust starts to settle a bit, we're going to have turret plates falling offline soon. Not a ton of those taken, is Oh boy, hold on. Every time ISO gets a little too far forward, I get nervous. Dr. Calculus, the grass proc's doing a ton. Gets the Tofo Strikes knockback, but ISO is just too takey. Maybe Krakadon wants to try, but he's going to run right into RBM. Not a ton of mana. Doesn't want this 1v1 at close range. Can't find the Q. Hits the flash. Ult isn't enough. No, Krakadon finds a huge shutdown. Can he pick up a second? Krakadon doubles up for 2 with the top side. Now Reppy's come over, trying to use the Spirit Form to kill off Krakadon. Will find that kill, but reinforcements coming across for the Western Mustangs as the Blast Cone sends links towards Reppy. The rocket goes wide. Reppy has to flash back under his own turret, but they're still chasing. Loyal gets thrown into Reppy's waiting arms, drops the Tempered Fate down, but it's not enough. Lynx finds the trade kill. Clyde is going to hook Dr. Calculus under the turret for 1. But what a setup and sit down there from Krakadon to get Western back in it.
Krakadon really clutched up in that fight. Even the heal coming out from the Sundered Sky allowed him to survive a little bit longer against Reppy, which just held that Yone in place and allowed Lynx and Loyal to join the fight, pick off that Yone. And with all of those kills, with all of that death in the top side, both teams marching up toward this top side to see if they can try and grab this Herald.
Enthralled, though, playing so far up. There is the Sky's Descent, and it drops right on Enthrall's head. Big killing spree kicked up for Mira, but the fight's not over. Krakadon in the front line doesn't have the Crescent Guard, going to get shut down by RBM, who's dropping so much damage in the background. Reppy finds a second, and now we're just scrapping in the mid lane, folks. Reppy thrown. So Western gets pulled all out there by Dr. Calculus, able to get over the wall, but look at Lynx getting caught off by the stun from ISO, trying to drop down this Callista, but Lynx is just hopping around. They can't get close enough, but Requiem does not care about distance. It's not enough damage. Lynx is going to survive through, finds the kill onto ISO. So many low health bars for Western, but it's only Dr. Calculus to fall so far.
And Lynx manages to dance around the fight. It felt like the team didn't quite know what to quit, but the rocket comes down!
Oh!
Enthralled snipes Lynx to finish off the fight.
Oh, that is massive. Massive gold swing. Getting it back towards Enthralled. But man, Quack, so these two teams all about scrapping in this mid-game. I gotta tell you, I was not expecting a 25 kill game in 60 minutes given the draft we had.
Yeah, we're only 16 minutes in, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon, Slayer. We have a dragon spawning in 45 seconds. Both teams want this objective. In the case of Northwood, they want to stop the scaling. They want to stop the objective farming here from the dragons and deny that soul point. And for Western, this dragon is essentially salvation for them. If they can get soul point, if they can get one step closer to that soul, that is one step closer to trying to match the scaling that Northwood have drafted. So a lot riding on this dragon, and I would expect both teams to fight tooth and nail to acquire it.
Gotta look out for RBM in these fights too, Quacks. 2 items, early Rabadons completed for this Karthus. We talked about in that last fight, every time you see that ult land over the head, it's like a blue shell in Mario Kart. You just pray that it doesn't knock you back to the base. And they're really going to start hurting as this game goes on. But for now, Western, they're going to finally get some top lane neutral control, pick up that first Rift Herald. But what is it going to cost them on the flip side?
For sure, all the members of Northwood are here on the top side. They're going to take this turret, no contest. They have all 6 grubs. Look at how fast they take that objective. And curiously enough, Western are actually just going to go and sit in this mid lane, try to cut off the members of Northwood. And it's going to be a fight, as always, potentially.
Yeah, I think that was just some good brunting from Clyde, not letting anyone get close to that river. Because you talked about the dragon stacking, how important that one is. And I love this from RBM and the Timberwolves. All right, we'll give you that Rift Herald, but that means you surrender this quick Chemtech Soul. It's now going to be delayed at least another 5 minutes, if not more, for Western.
And this really beggars the question, where do they actually plan to use this Herald? Because Northwood have done a really good job at pushing up in this mid game, right? They have really set the map so that they can go to the enemy jungle, establish vision there. It's been really hard for Western to walk up in sort of these darker parts of the map, and it's going to be kind of risky to put down a Herald, try to take one of these towers, because this mid lane tier 1, which is the one I would expect them to go for, is pretty darn healthy. So they're going to have to commit a lot of time to it, which is time they might not have.
Certainly doesn't feel like it, especially with Baron spawning in about a minute 20. Gotta think that's where both teams are going to be looking. And talking more about that mid-tier 1 Quacks, it just is so massive for how much space it can create with vision lines. I mean, Western, there's a certain level back into this blue side jungle. You don't really think they're able to get those wards down just because of this mid-tier 1 still standing up. And you can tell Krakodon cares very much about that.
For sure, and they are going to try and alleviate some of Krakodon's worries, and they're just going to go straight for the turret, knock that one down. Northwood not even able to really fight for it. They don't have Reppy, who's been silently pushing in the top side of the map. Baron is spawning soon, and the side lanes are definitely in favor of Northwood here. I wonder if they're going to try and use that, try and establish vision, and potentially take this one early, because they have a lot of good Baron takers, a lot of good objective takers on their team. You have a 2-item Jinx, a 2-item Karthus, and a 2-item Yone. So a lot of consistent burst damage on this objective makes it very easy for them to take Barons quickly.
Also, just sets them so well up in these fights to really split how they want to play it, right? You enthralled, you're playing Jinx. You want to play front to back so you get the reset, then go crazy. But how difficult of a game is this here for Mira and Lynx? Because Yone dives them in the background. Karthus ult, you can't dodge that one as well. Lynx is going to have to play really smart on that low-range Callista to really come out on top in some of these fights for Western.
We've seen it in multiple fights how careful Lynx has to be, right? Because he is, you know, a couple centimeters short of getting picked every time, like Mira has been.
How much damage can they drop through? Because that was a big amount of damage swung back by Lynx. Krakodon on the background. Mira does get out. Callista ult down. They're going for RBM, who is very low, just trying to run out of it. Dr. Calculus going in for the trace. Reppy looks for the turn into Krakodon, but the two carries are out of here. Lynx gets a major shutdown, and here comes the Requiem. Krakodon won't have the Crescent Guard to protect him. Dr. Calculus is diving under tier 2 turrets. What is going on in this split fight? But it's the Western Mustangs carries that are singing through here. Iso caught on the wrong side of the rift, and Mira has responded to the initial pick with a massive set of damage kills over to Iso. And this game 1 has another chapter. We're not going anywhere anytime soon.
But unfortunately, they lost too many members to really go for the Baron here, right? They don't have Krakodon, they don't have... So it's just going to be them picking up those kills and, you know, being able to spend that gold. But beautiful positioning there by Lynx. Just before that fight started, we were questioning how this Callista would be able to navigate those team fights. And Lynx, he found Clyde. He managed to split him off in a 1v1, and he just killed off the support, right? You take what you can get. So beautiful play from Lynx. Good ultimate, too, from Mira. We didn't really get to highlight that one, but I believe that that Aurelion Soul ult managed to hit 3 or 4 members of Northwood. So that was a big team fight starter for them.
Yeah, remember, Mira was the one that got caught, so to be able to turn that on to RBM, massive. And Karthus really became just an ult bot, which is the main source of damage for this Karthus, but with how much this comp was relying on him for all their AP damage, RBM, and how squishy RBM is with this build, you can see the weak point that leaves in Northwood's comp here. The fact that this Karthus actually gets outranged by the only other AP threat in this game.
For sure, but I mean, death is kind of a thing that Karthus doesn't really care about. I would honestly not be surprised if really big meme, you know, in some of these fights where objectives aren't necessarily the main goal, just decides to go into the middle of the team and use that AoE to try and get as much damage down as possible. As the Baron has been started up, it's at just around 5k here, but yeah, they're gonna get off of it. Mira has the Sky's Descend. This is incredibly dangerous to fight against. This ultimate can literally win you the team fight, and any team fight could tip the scales in any team's favor to be able to be on a winning position. So you've got to be careful.
Look at the vision here for the Timberwolves, Quacks. They have no idea what's going on. One blue ward gets it. Mira can hit over the wall here onto the Baron. They're looking for the turn, though. Dr. Calculus is going to go in. Here comes the Sky's Descent. The combo is massive. Enthralled is already dead. And what a flank comes across from the Western Mustangs. Dr. Calculus calculates a setup, and the rest of the squad knocks him down in droves. It's going to be a clean ace and a free Gen G Baron buff for your Western Mustangs.
The Baron will be secured, and now the death timers are long enough to where I think this is going to be Western picking up not just this Baron buff like you said, Slayer, but the Dragon as well. This will put them on soul point. A beautiful ult there from Mira, hitting everybody on Northwestern, saying dodge this. And yeah, just overall Western with the superior team fighting, going to come up big in that fight and reap the rewards.
We talked about it, how massive Enthralled has to be in these fights on the Jinx. Immediately gets popped. And that Sky's Descent ever so powerful. It really feels like both these teams are looking to pick off the opposing AD carries first. And now we've had a multitude of fights where it goes either way, but as the dust settles, as the Gen G Baron buff rises up, it's Western with all the power and a ton of turrets and standing gold, particularly all those tier 2s to grab to really accelerate their lead.
And now Mira has the Zhonya's Hourglass, so this is going to make picking off that Aurelion Soul so much more difficult, as Krakodon has spotted out Reppy.
Okay, Reppy tries to use the Fate Seal to get out, but gets caught off, goes into the Spirit form. Gotta think he's just trying to buy time, but Krakodon doing a really good job spacing this fight. Does Reppy have an outplay in him? Not if he gets knocked up and thrown to a gray screen. Great pick from Krakodon and Calculus, the top side for the Mustangs.
They've committed to the top lane, but look at Izo in this bot lane. He's just trying to get as much pressure, as much push as he can. He has TP to potentially join this fight. You can see the Timberwolves.
Pops the Ghost, doesn't get hit by the Callisto ultimate. Clyde's doing a good job brunting. Has to defensively use the depth charge. Ton of damage all over. There's Nautilus, the Rocket. Not enough to pop the bowl just yet. Another key summoner off Enthralled, and now Northwood, they give up the mid lane, and Mira's looking for more. Drops the Fallen Star. Unstoppable onslaught forward from Izo, trying to be the front line, but the carries are too low. They've all ran away, and Mira has picked off RBM on the other side, but the Requiem is still here. Isn't enough damage. Mira goes into stasis. Loyal doesn't fall. The Requiem comes up blank in the kill department, and that means the Mustangs are going to take even more of those structures away from the Timberwolves.
Clyde, he is on this backline, maybe looking to try and pick off any of the members here. He flashes.
Flashes, he gets Dr. Calculus, but Reppy goes over the wall trying to get onto Krakodon, but Lynx kills him off, able to stay safe, and now the Callista is running wild. Flash forward from Lynx, gets the slow on the Ren, looking for more, eats a depth charge, wants to kill Enthralled off first, but it's going to settle for the Nautilus, a double kill over to Dr. Calculus. Lynx gets it done again, and it's a second ace for Western in this game #1.
And they only lost Loyal. Now RBM has respawned, but he's the only one. The Baron buff is still in the inventory of West, probably not for much longer. Actually, wait, no, it is actually going to be in there for a lot longer. I just saw it on the top right.
This might be it.
Yeah, it's over, I think.
Krakodon flashes, kills off RBM. Nexus turret soon to fall. Reppy and Izo are up now. The wave's starting to thin. I don't know if Western could do it here. They're going to commit for it all. There's this Tempered Fate out, but Reppy once again gets picked off. Krakodon just focusing the Nexus. The respawn still coming through. Do Western have it? They will. They'll take game 1 in style. What a start to this round of 16.
And through what I would call a pretty messy early game, it felt like Western were able to crawl out of the mud and the muck created by so many scraps early on and just take game 1 by the throat. Really felt like Northwood, they could not really do much. Lynx played really well. Mira hit multiple key ultimates. The new player here for Western, a lot of people have been asking, is Mira the missing puzzle piece that Western could potentially have to, make a deep run here in the CLOL tournament? And so far after game 1, I might be hopping on a train along with some other people that watched this first game.
Man, I know you're sitting happy over there, picking Western to win this series. Relax. Western, the Western Mustangs looking to establish themselves as the best Canadian prospect team when it comes to CLOL, looking to get that bad top 32 finish from last year.